In today's video, we're going to talk about 10 reasons why you're probably not as prepared as you think to endure the impacts of a long-term, world-changing disaster. Let's get to it. If any of the following 10 aspects of your preparedness plan are lacking, let me know what your strengths and weaknesses are in the comments section below. One of the first things that the majority of people are lacking are physical fitness. In any disaster scenario, barring the shelter-in-place scenario that we've endured this last 6 months, physical fitness is going to be an asset. And even throughout these last 6 months, being physically healthy and having a strong immune system have been critical for your survival. Physical fitness, be it endurance, speed, strength, dexterity, agility, are all important, whether it's for defending yourself and your family, traveling over long distances with a lot of gear on your back, rescuing people in times of crisis, or even just the physical strength required to perform the more laborious duties of living off-grid. Physical fitness is everything, and most people simply don't have it. No amount of money and gear can buy physical health. That's something you have to work for, and I would encourage you to do so before it's too late. The next weak point in your preparedness plan is medical issues. If there are any medical procedures that you have been postponing, the time to get those things done is now. Whether it's dentistry or a surgery that needs doing, maybe you have eye problems and require some kind of corrective surgery or corrective eyewear, or maybe the hindrances to your health are psychological ones. Perhaps you have some bad habits that you haven't addressed that are taking a negative toll on your health, thereby making you weaker and less physically prepared to endure highly distressing situations that would present themselves in a crisis scenario. Also, if you're prescribed medications, do you have 3 to 6 months worth of those medications stored? In addition, do you have the life-sustaining medical equipment that you rely on in order to survive? Do you have a backup pair of eyewear or at least a year's worth of contact lenses in such case that you are not able to be seen by an optometrist? Make sure you are medically squared away for 6 months. Most people don't have a proper sanitation plan. In the case of a grid-down predicament, utilities like water are not going to be available. You need to have a plan to manage your waste in a sanitary way. Be prepared to dispose of your waste in a way which is not going to contaminate your water or food sources, or expose you to other pathogens which can make you sick. Check out the link in the description for more information on how you can effectively manage your waste to minimize negative health effects in the safest way possible. Have a place that you can dig a latrine which is far from any drinkable water. You can use ashes from your fireplace or fire pit to manage the smell and discourage insects. If you're looking for a more portable in-house option, check out the luggable loo or toilet in a bag options. Links are in the description. The next thing people tend to lack is a knowledge of their community. Having an awareness of who is who would be problematic, and who would be helpful in times of distress would be very useful information. You should also know where the resources are in your community and who are the arbiters of those resources. Have a familiarity with the hazards which might present themselves, and tailor your preparedness plan to things that are most likely in your region. In addition to this, it's important to have a plan for your extended family members, as you know they are going to come knocking after it hits the fan. Once you have provisions squared away for yourself, start preparing for your family. The next mistake that a lot of people make is not having at least, and I say at least, 3 months worth of food stored on hand. Remember the 1 to 100 principle. It is 100 times easier to procure food while the grid is up than while it's down. 1 hour of work at the average job in the modern day can net you a 40-pound bag of rice. The amount of physical labor you would have to contribute in order to receive an equivalent amount in a grid down situation will be 100 times as long. Your food supply should have a good balance of micro and macronutrients, both vitamins and minerals, proteins, carbs, and fats. And you should have enough food for 2,000 calories per person in your group per day. Having your own garden and the ability to grow food is also an asset, especially for a long-term crisis scenario. But having actual food storage on hand is of utmost importance. The next thing that people are lacking in their preparedness plan is that they have a lot of water filters, but they have no water source. If you do not have easy access to a water source, make sure that you have some water stored on hand, at least 1 gallon per person per day. A 55-gallon drum of water should last one person 2 months, if well rationed. Having to collect or transport water after a crisis hits may be laborious, risky, if even possible at all. Therefore, having water storage on hand should be your first priority. You can purify this water with calcium hypochlorite, just make sure it's concentrated in the amount of 60% and above. You can get that at your local hardware store. Another one of the tried and true ways of purifying large volumes of water with ease is using a BERKY water filtration system. These are the most popular water filters in the preparedness community and will cleanse your water of bacteria, viruses, and some chemicals. I'll post a link for these units in the description below. The next thing many people lack is a home self-defense plan and self-defense training. Are you prepared to deal with a home invasion? Are you prepared to actually defend your home? It's one thing to have self-defense tools, but are they accessible within your home? Are you prepared to use them? And do you have an actual plan to respond if something happened? Make sure that any self-defense tools that you're legally allowed to use are accessible and ready to be deployed. Use the appropriate preventative strategies to discourage criminals from targeting you in the first place. See my video about preparing for civil unrest, which goes into detail about home security strategies. A scenario that a person is most likely to experience throughout their lives is an economic depression. In the case of a financial crisis, whether it's just your personal finances or something that's nationwide, you should have the savings to see you through at least 6 months. The end of the world as we know it is not always going to be a sensational exercise. It may just mean a temporary economic slowdown in which you're still going to be on the line to pay your bills. Work to slowly accumulate a 6-month nest egg to make sure that you can maintain your home and meet your primary needs throughout these times. This may involve a diversified economic portfolio, being more frugal with your spending, and even taking on an extra job in order to get yourself squared away. The next shortcoming in your preparedness plan is lacking an off-grid power supply. Now, it's a given that if there is a long-term power outage, chances are you're going to have to give up some luxuries. That is, unless you have a fully supplementary off-grid power system, chances are you won't be cooking on your stove, using your washing machine, or your air conditioner. But there are smaller off-grid power supplies available that you can use for things like communication, lighting, power tools, powering cell phones and smaller electronics, and even powering smaller refrigerators and smaller appliances. In terms of meeting your modern needs, having an off-grid power source will not only provide some of the necessities of life, but also a lot of creature comforts as well, which will increase the psychological well-being of people in your group throughout those dark times. If you live in a colder environment, make sure you have a way to keep your family warm after a grid down event. Natural gas flows may be impacted if the electrical grid is compromised. Explore alternative fuel sources for heating, like propane or wood stoves, as well as finding ways to optimize the insulation in your shelter. Make sure you have personal protective equipment at your disposal. Proper CBRN equipment, including latex gloves, gas masks, and hazmat safety suits, will be useful across a wide spectrum of chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats. See the link in the description for information on where you can get certified safety equipment. Most people don't have a bug-out bag that can sustain life for up to 7 days. Should you have to evacuate your property temporarily or permanently leave your residence, you need to have the means to sustain life in the short term. Having a 3-day kit is better than nothing, but you should have the ability to mobilize 7 days worth of provisions, including food, water, shelter, medical supplies, and a means of self-defense. Check out my in-depth videos on bug-out bags through the link in the description. Lastly, what most people lack is mental preparation. Being emotionally stable, mentally resilient, having the temperance needed to cease all addictive behaviors, and ration supplies when they're scarce. Also, maintaining a stoic attitude in the face of an onslaught of challenges that may present themselves. This may be one of the biggest challenges for people who've become accustomed to living a very easy life in the Western world, where the systems that nurture all of your primary needs are typically out of sight and out of mind. When the grid goes down, all of those responsibilities that they provided are going to be on you. So make sure you're mentally prepared to deal with the inevitable downgrade in your standard of living. Let me know what the strengths and weaknesses are of your emergency preparedness plan in the comments section below. And stay safe. Thanks for watching Canadian Prepper Out. The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, your one-stop shop for premium, high-quality, brand-name products that have been tried and tested by myself and other YouTube gear reviewers. My subscribers save 10% off by using the coupon code SURVIVALPREPPER. All one word in all caps.